Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Tim Warren. Tim originally trained as a software developer and has held senior roles with Goldman Sachs and JB Ware. But more recently, he is the CEO and founder of the AI startup Ambit.ai, a company which for the last 3 years running was named in Maastricht's top 100 NZ tech firms to work for. Today, we're talking about Tim's view of you don't know about AI. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be on here.
Tim, I always like to ask my guests when we first start, where in the world are you?
I'm based in Auckland, New Zealand. It's very, very sunny, but very cold today.
It's a beautiful place. It's somewhere I know extremely well, having worked there quite a bit myself. So, it's a
Right.
great place. Okay, let's get into the interview. So, Tim, can you tell us a little bit first about Ambit AI? Let's baseline it. What does it do? How does it help people?
Yeah, so Ambit AI is a conversation platform. So we as a company, we provide customer service to some of those big brands that you and your listeners will have heard of, like Dermalogica.
Hmm.
In New Zealand, we've got Tower Insurance, a few companies in the warehouse group like Noel Leeming, etc. So we provide automated customer service using artificial intelligence
Hmm.
to provide people those kind of top questions that they really need to know about interacting with these companies.
And is that all text based, or are you now presenting avatars and maybe even voice on top of that?
Yeah, we can do the whole lot. Look, all of the conversation is based in text, so we have to support that. But we work with a variety of different companies to provide those avatars, those digital humans, if you
Hmm.
will, and also it can be done through voice. So we find a combination, any combination is what people want. But typically, our customers are doing it through multiple channels.
Understood. Understood. So you've been running it, as I said, for several years now. Obviously, the zeitgeist is AI, and we've heard about ChatGPT. So it sounds like this is something that you're well ahead of the curve on, and it's been working for you really well.
Yeah, it does work well. To put a little bit of a timeline around it, in
Yeah.
2016, myself and I call them a brains trust, a group of other entrepreneurs got around a table and we went through a bunch of ideas until we narrowed it down to let's use AI because it's coming, not because it's here, but because it's coming. So we registered the company in 2017, and from there we set about building software to deliver great customer service. And that was on, call it a previous generation of artificial intelligence, but it worked
Mhm.
really well then as well. We always found that the customers who believed in it, who put in a bit of effort, got fabulous results with it. And you're right. You look, when ChatGPT was released at the end of last year, they did a fabulous marketing job for us. And now everyone's heard about what we do, and we're one of the big companies in New Zealand and Australia, and then
Mhm.
on to the rest of the world that can provide that.
So have you found that as a direct result of the publicity that's come from ChatGPT, you are now better known?
Yeah, very much so. It's great. People will actually contact us and say, "Hey, I heard about you guys a couple of years ago, but now I
Mhm.
know what you do," which I guess points to the fact that maybe we didn't do a great job of explaining what we do. And I think originally, and with them, it's become mass market where everyone's got
Mhm.
access to these tools, and it's a great way of learning. And what we can do is provide a commercial outcome for a business. So yeah, it's definitely changed things for us.
That's great news. It's lovely to hear from, say, a pioneer who was doing exciting things, which so many people are trying to do now. But you were there, they say, back in 2016, 2017. So,
Mm,
congratulations on that forward thinking.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting when you get into something quite early. You know that when most people tell you that you're stupid, and some people ignore you, and a couple of people think, actually that's quite smart, then you've got to go for it. It's all right to be a bit early, but if you're
Mhm.
late, you're just an also ran, and that's not really my gig.
No, I hear you 100% there. So look, let's get into the statement that I mentioned in the intro, and some people could see it as quite a big statement. You don't know about AI, or you don't know AI. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I particularly in, I guess, in the last year that everything's really, come to the fore with AI. I get
Mhm.
asked to speak a lot, and what I do when I'm working out what should I talk about is let's work out the level of understanding in an audience that I'm going to be talking to. And a lot of the time, if I'm talking to typical prospects or customers, then they've got an understanding of it in terms of the fact that, hey, this is a tool that we can use, but not really an understanding of really how it works and really what it is.
Mhm.
So I came up with this concept of let's break a few misconceptions about AI. And when I was presenting a year and a half ago about it, I could literally get that jaw drop moment where I could show people things that they really had no concept that could be done. Now, this has changed massively in the last 6 months. So imagine back a year ago, and I would tell people that I say, hey, look, we're going to go to LinkedIn. And so go to LinkedIn. We look at my most recent post and it'd say, this is Tim. He's going to be talking at this event. And that's the actual talk that I'm in at that time.
Mhm.
And I'd say, who's seen that post? And I've got a pretty good LinkedIn reach. So lots of people have said, yeah, I've seen that. I liked it.
Mhm.
I interacted with it. And I say, I didn't write that post. And then I play a video of me just typing into our engine, write a LinkedIn post about this event. And then it does, of course, a really good job. This is before anyone saw
Mhm.
ChatGPT. And that's the jaw drop moment. And then I would move on to, and I think this is quite tangible for people because this is happening today. We've been doing this for a couple of years. We will write a role description using AI. We post it to social, we post it to other sites to share it. And that could be, for instance, to hire a software developer.
Mhm.
Now, that software developer comes in, we announce that using AI to announce it onto LinkedIn, or which is my main channel
Yep.
and other channels. Uh, their onboarding is done with AI, including all of their welcome, based on our existing documentation that is in Confluence, and we can spin up all of the things they need to do in their first day, week, month. And then that software engineer ends up working on the same AI system that essentially hired them. So it's a very interesting interplay there between the people and the machines. And one of the, like, I guess no one was listening to me on this front a year ago, but now everyone's saying things like, "Oh, the sky is falling. We've got this real risk of the Skynet situation. Someone's going to
Mhm.
plug my toaster's going to attack me. Whatever it might be."
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of uninformed worry. Now, I don't think it's an area you shouldn't be actively thinking about, quite the reverse. But there's not a lot of point in running around yelling out the sky is falling if you don't know much about it. So I try and break that concept that, hey, it's not like you're going to be replaced by a machine next year. But if you don't stay up to date with technology, someone who's got an AI machine is going to have a really good shot at being able to do that role that you're doing. So I give the example of generating content for social.
Mhm.
Often, actually, this is quite a good one because a lot of the time it's younger people earlier in their careers, and they're really interested in learning technology. And in the last 6 months, their roles have changed out of sight. They can now do 3 to 4 to 5 times the volume, the throughput. Maybe the quality's increased, and that's because a person who's interested in the content and can edit that content is now able to be augmented by really powerful and very high speed software.
So you mentioned something there about a younger generation of people doing work. Typically, technology is embraced by younger demographics, but my
Mm.
personal feeling is AI is useful to all demographics. Is this something you've seen yourself, or have you seen resistance in the same way that we've traditionally had resistance about new technologies?
Yeah, so adoption and resistance definitely measured on different scales. It'd be one of those interesting X, Y axes, those plots, wouldn't it? So I
Mhm.
do find I'll talk to, for instance, I'm talking to the partners of a variety of different law firms across the region, and uh, people. This is the kind of thing partners will say to me: "Oh, we don't use that in our company, but we should probably find out what's going on." And I'll say, "Actually, can I tell you, people in your company are using it. You just don't know." So first, let's break those barriers down and have them understand. So the adoption is understood at the lower
Mm,
level, but the risks are not. At the higher level, possibly the risks are going to be understood better, but the adoption is lower. But I would say now, relative to even just 6 months ago, the understanding that people need to move is much better. But people have, I would say, senior people, they're probably giving themselves a number of years to get used to the concept when I suggest that it's happening already and they probably need to get across this in the next number of months. But it's generally a positive discussion.
mhm.
I showed them a couple of things, a couple of examples, or talk to them about some things, and I'm actively talking to law firms around how to do this. And again, you get that jaw drop moment, and people get very excited about it, and they say, "You know what? You better come in and talk to our board." I say, "Hey, I'd love to."
So when you have those jaw drop moments, is there a danger that people think AI can solve all my problems and it's just going to be easy? It's like the dot com boom where people would go, "Oh, I just put dot com at the end of my business name and suddenly I'm going to make millions of dollars." I kind of feel like AI is a little bit like that at the moment.
Oh, totally. Look, expectations are unrealistic. Um, but in terms of the uninformed, so there's that famous phrase, and I can't remember, maybe it was Arthur C. Clarke or Isaac Asimov or one of those great people, said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So people's expectations for AI at the moment is magic. Oh, it's going to do all things,
Hmm.
except I'll be totally safe in what I'm doing. And I say, well, it's actually more of a balanced view than that. So let's look at how it might impact your area. So I talk to people at the moment. I'm talking to a bunch of people in medicine,
Hmm.
and if there's one area where they think they're really protected, it would be that. Now, I think you need a little bit of that self belief to be able to do some of those roles, especially
Hmm.
to be a surgeon or something of that nature. However, it's coming. So I do like to pull people into that awareness that it's here now.
Yeah.
You got to
I mean,
you got to do something.
just on the medical side, there's been a very recent study which showed the diagnosis of breast cancer can be extremely efficient if you're using AI. But also, there was some work earlier in the year which basically reviewed bedside manner, for whatever a better description.
Yeah,
And and it was a very, very interesting take in that the bedside manner seemed to be
yeah,
better with AI.
yeah. I'll tell you something really interesting that we found early on. This was an unexpected benefit that
Hmm.
came from the conversational AI that we built around 2017, and we've been using since then. So we found that people were inclined to be more open with technology because they didn't feel judged, which is a really interesting one. And it came up when we interviewed people who'd used the technology. We said,
Hmm.
"Hey, how did you find with this or with that?" We found that in particular, the use case was in the human resources area, people and culture, where
Hmm.
people had a personal problem they might need, or they had some item that was personal and sensitive to them. And they were happier talking to automation than they were to a person. And I'll give you one of the best examples is people being able to talk about some kind of parenting leave. And they felt, oh, if I talk to a person, they're going to judge me or start planning my resignation or whatever it might be, and they people just wanted to be able to interact. So I'm guessing I've heard of the study, but I haven't seen the details. I'm guessing it would be something along those lines. Also, whether it's fake or real empathy, if people get value out of it, then it's useful.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of debate at the moment around, oh, is AI actually conscious? Does it really know? Well, I mean, my view at the moment is like, no, there is not conscious. It doesn't really know if it's helping you to
No.
buy an orange kayak or whatever. It's just responding to things. But I tell you what, you delve down deep enough in the biochemical pathways in the brain, it's a few layers, but we're actually not that much different. There's a particular impulse, and these kind of things happen. And we have this, there's the theory of mind and this concept of consciousness, which we've
Hmm.
endowed upon ourselves. Um, I don't think it's happening at the computer, but the question is, can that get a good outcome for people? And the discussion I was having with people exactly in that diagnosis area, it was just earlier today,
Hmm.
was someone said, No one's ever going to be as good or replace a person. And I said, can I give you another view of that? I said, someone wants to talk to you. They want to talk to the best. How long does that appointment take to get that
Hmm.
appointment? They said, well, there's a lot of demand. It could be 2 months. And I said, what if they could do this straight away? And then it's passed and it's the high risk, high priority cases come to you. They said, "Oh, that will be fabulous." I said,
Yeah.
"That's how AI can help. It can help you because you can prioritize your patients better. You can. Some people don't need to be seen, and you can deal with worry earlier. What if you could have that discussion today and get a sense of a risk rating? So there's a lot in that area as
Mm.
that can really improve medicine. It's not about replacing people. It's about doing a better job for people, and that's something that I embrace.
Yeah, well, that sounds really good. I mean, you have that statement of, oh, there are certain things that AI will never replace. Well, I've heard that lots of times before with other technologies, and things always move on. I would
Mm,
argue that with the example that you cited there, well, let's say it's a brain surgeon or somebody with really high end skills, the absolute cutting edge, then I completely agree with you. Getting it to the point where they can do that speciality and not get tied down in stuff that isn't important, that is one
mm.
of the great uses of AI to complement
Absolutely.
their skill set and their hard fought understanding.
Yeah, I think it'll be a version of as we become more senior in our roles, we're encouraged. You need to let go. You need to hire people to do that. And the
Yeah.
the the nth degree of creating a self-leading organization is where someone can be in a role and think, you know what, I can actually have a day off. It's really important from an entrepreneur's
Yeah.
perspective. I can have a day off or an hour off. Maybe I don't have to work this Sunday, and maybe you get to the stage where you can have a week off. It gets quite
Yeah.
exciting. So one of those things I think will be, okay, you have to bring people through. You also have to bring enabling technology through. And look, I remember this. My parents are of the age that when they started in their jobs, and my dad had quite a traditional office based kind of a
Hmm.
job for a lot of his career. Um, he didn't come close to a typewriter. Typewriters was something where he would dictate, and then that would be given to someone else, and that office memo would be run down, and they would listen, and it would be typed, and it would go back to him through various hands. That was the type. He never even got close to a typewriter,
No.
and then he resisted the typewriter. Sorry, he resisted the early computers for long enough until then he's got a son who's studying computers, so then he had to get into it, right? And so he started learning enough that he could do it in his
Hmm.
job, and goodness me, he took to it no problem. So by the time he's retired now, by the time he retired, he was using every version of CAD and word processing and
Hmm.
email and whatever you need. He adapted, and he was in his 70s when he was picking up his last tricks on that. So that will happen with this kind of technology, and it's but it'll be demystified because it literally was magic when those
Yeah.
computers first turn up. And that's why I say you don't know AI. It's not that little robot that's going to turn up and shoo you into the cupboard or give you a low class, low paid job. It's not that at all. It's a whole bunch of positive, inviting things that are going to do things like guess the next word for your email, or maybe
Hmm.
write that email for you so you don't have to and ah about it. And maybe it's going to write that email based on previous emails with that same person. And it's maybe if you put something along the lines of with our recent contract, it can offer to add in the recent
Hmm.
contract that you've got. That's all AI. And when you see it in the small areas there, all of the big, amazing, crazy stuff that we're seeing from OpenAI and Anthropic, it's incredible. But when it hits the road, when the rubber hits the road, it's starting with some of those simple, useful things. That's all AI as well. Working out the shortest path on a map. When I studied computer science just a few short years ago, um, not that few years actually, but when I studied computer science, finding the shortest path on a map was seen as a genuinely hard problem. And
Hmm.
then I also studied AI, and it was seen as really an AI kind of a way of finding it. Well, it was solved in the early 2000s. It was worked out. Then it's just gone to what people expect. No one thinks, oh, I'm using this fancy AI algorithm. You don't call it AI anymore. You just call it a map, and it's in your phone, and You can buy $100 phone that's got that built in.
Yeah. I mean, it's now a standard thing. I mean, like yourself, I remember the early attempts at this, and there was an application called Auto Route, and that
Mm,
was the very early days, and it was
mm.
astonishing. People were blown away by what it could do, but now it is there in every phone that you can think of.
One of the first pieces of software that I wrote as a contract developer, it took email that was addressed to one person, it sent it to a different person,
Mhm.
and I got paid like $5,000 to write that.
That's
Right,
amazing, isn't it?
it was really just an alias or a redirect or something like that, and it comes for free and everything now and that kind of thing, but back then, it was just seen as extraordinary technology, and I was touted as this
Yeah.
person who'd done a great thing, and of course, it didn't impress me because it's like, "Oh, I can see how to do that." That's why I was offering my my capability to do that, and equally now, while I'm doing something that is seen as being really on the edge and people who are living in this AI world are seen there,
Mhm.
to me, I understand it. There are some parts which really impress me. Don't let's not get that wrong. I mean, the capability of these tools is phenomenal, but I understand these core little kernel aspects of it. And when
Mhm.
I hear people like Sam Altman talk from OpenAI or others who are really getting into the details of how these attention networks and transformers work, I like, yep, that's how it works. I get it. I couldn't necessarily implement that myself, but I've got people on the team who can.
Who
It
can do
blows
that
me
for you?
away. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're doing. We've been doing that for a couple of years. And we were talking about, actually when you need to step back from a role. When I saw what we were getting into a couple of years ago, I said to the CTO, I said, I'm never checking in any code. He said, good.
Yeah, I think leaving coding behind is probably a good thing for a lot of people at some point in their career. I certainly did that. It's
Well, it's fascinating. You mentioned you're a coder, and but imagine coming out of university right now. How different would it be? Or I've got twin boys. They're 17. They're great
Mhm.
kids, and they're really smart. They could do anything they want,
Mhm.
and I'm really worried for them because what are they going to do? What if they study law? I'm disrupting law
Yeah.
heavily, right? I don't know if there's any lawyers listening, but they certainly should be. They say, well, no, maybe we'll do law because that'll be safe. Nah,
No.
how about accounting? That'll be safe. Nope.
Nope.
Uh, I struggle to find an area that's truly safe apart from personal connection. So if there's a really direct personal connection, I think that we're a long way in AI terms is not that far away. I mean,
No.
one of the latest people I hired was a PhD in psychology because I want to understand how we can create this. So, as I say, what that sounds protected from it relative to everything else, but everything else is going to be impacted, and it's up to us to choose some way that so it can be done in a really positive way.
Yeah, I think on the psychology side of it, it's an area that I'm particularly interested in. You look at services like Replica,
Mm,
and the positive effect that's had for a lot of people. And when they changed the model and made it, well, it got described as being lobotomized for a little while. Some people were like, I've lost my best friend. What have you done to it? And they genuinely formed a relationship. I remember reading one comment from somebody who was, you know, they were bedridden, and say, "This is the only person I talk to on a regular basis."
that's right, and it can always it can use it. Look, I think it goes back to that bedside tone.
Hmm.
So there's a functional connection that you can build, which
Hmm.
can be very good. And we find because we can go through the logs of people using our platform, and we don't do this often, but we do it for learning. This is what AI
Hmm.
mainly does for us itself. But people have the funniest discussions with the chatbot. They have discussions about all kinds of things that you wouldn't with a person. So, in many ways, is the connection with the AI better because it's functional and it's focused and it's
Hmm.
personal? You know what? The chatbot that you're talking to does not have to drive home through rush hour traffic. They don't have to make dinner for the kids.
Hmm.
They don't have to sleep. They're there for you 24/7. And some people, we got measured early on by contact centers, and they'd say, "Oh, this is no good. Some people are spending up to 10 minutes talking to the agent. We need to shorten it." And I said, "But did they get what they want and did they enjoy it?" "Oh,
Hmm.
it's not about whether they enjoy the service or not." And I said, "Let me introduce you to the concept of customer experience. which is if you can deliver an experience which people enjoy and they come back, and some of our customers have 65, 70% repeat usage, right? This is good.
Yeah, that's really
Uh,
high.
so why not give them that experience? So I would say 90% of organizations in a customer service area
Mhm,
are still thinking about phones and getting people off the phone. First,
mhm.
get them off the phone. I used to work in a call center for Microsoft, and I did a funny thing. I went from working from the biggest company in the world, which Microsoft was back then, to the smallest company in the world, just working me and a friend. And everyone told me I was crazy. But working in a call center taught me lots of things, the way you're measured. Well, how about when you take that pressure away, and if you can just give people a great experience, it's
Mhm.
better for the customer and the relationship.
I mean, the grand irony there is people will regularly quote something like Terminator as, with the negatives and all this sort of stuff. But there's this one wonderful part in Terminator 2 where Sarah Connor's talking about John Connor and saying the Terminator will actually always be there for him. It will
And
never
treats
not
him
have,
like
and it is
that's
always
right.
positive.
Never sleeps. Okay, so that's one of my favorite movies of all
Mm,
time, and it's funny because it's this very negative view on how things could go. But I think if you see the other side of the coin, it's the humanity can actually be in there. And this
yeah.
is where I've got a strong belief around the development of AI and how it's regulated and how it's trained. So a concept of mine really is that AI is a cultural mirror. So we need
Mhm,
to make sure the right people are looking into that mirror. And if we have, and I used to be one of these. So if we've got a bunch of 24-year-old white men all focused on doing the training, you're going to get a particular outcome. So what I say is let's make sure a broad set of people are looking in the mirror. Let's go out and learn from a wide area of a cross section of society. And it's not just the Silicon Valley. It's not just where life is made easy. And, I think a fascinating person to talk on this would be Bill Gates, because
mhm.
Bill did his intensely capitalist conquer the world thing, and then he just focused on giving away as much money as he could. And he's been many places around the world, and he's done the most extraordinary things that he can to try and make people's lives better, not driven by the dollar. He's got all that he needs, and he's like
Yeah.
I said, he's getting rid of them. And that's the thing. When people start to understand AI, instead of just being kind of worried about it or ignoring it, which I don't think are two great positions, when they start to understand it, you get really excited. I get really excited by this and how you can do a better job for people.
And do you think we can hit a golden age where people might get a better work-life balance, or is it that human nature is just you work just as hard, AI will let you do more in that same amount of time?
So I more the latter. So I think AI will let you operate. I don't think it's about working less. One of my concepts is that humans have the necessity of adversity. So
Mhm,
they have this need to do something, and it's the savannah kind of running away from the things that want to bite you and that kind of thing. So
mhm.
it's all historical. I heard a great thing the other day saying we're running 400,000-year-old operating system, and things are changing every day at the moment. It's a little bit hard to keep up, but I think the point is that a biological operating system is something stunning and incredible. um, so where do people, kind of where do people need to get to with that? Anyway, I don't think people are going to end up working one day a week, or one hour a day. I think
Mhm.
it's more that we enable. I don't think there were some problems during the Industrial Revolution. You had, 6 hour day, sorry, 6 day weeks and
Mhm.
12-hour days. That obviously wasn't healthy. And it's got back to this, maybe things will sit in that 3, 4, 5 day flexibility. At least it's an open discussion now. But you get motivated people. Can you imagine? I mean, maybe you can't because we've only just met, but trying to tell me I can only work 3 days a week. I need purpose. So I think most people are purpose driven ultimately. So if AI enables people to be more focused on doing something where they find real purpose, their ikigai,
Mhm.
or whatever that term might be, then I think then that's a great advancement for individuals, but also probably society. Now, there'll be all kinds of die-hard capitalists that won't like this because they say, they want to favor jobs over workers. Well,
Mhm.
I'd suggest, we need to favor uh, the concept of people over purely jobs or workers. And how is this? Is there going to be change? Yes. If we get ahead of it, can it be managed really well? Absolutely. But you know what? I don't think anyone studied their way through school with the idea that they can be a Walmart cashier. I don't think that's what people's plans were. But I put money on it that just about anyone who's out there will have something, and I call it people's superpower. What if someone can just be good at something and they can find that thing and they can do it relatively well? Remember, I'm not talking about just what they get paid here, that's
Hmm.
secondary. What if you can find someone so they can operate in that space of flow? So they're doing something, they're quite good at it, it's something that people need, and they get a purpose out of it. I think that's a great place for people to be. And people say, oh, you're a bleeding heart liberal or whatever. Hello, I've worked at Goldman Sachs. So I've been part of the
Yeah.
I've been part of the cold heart of capitalism. I have seen all ends of the spectrum. But you know what I really like? And I actually just caught up with one of my friends from Goldman Sachs. We started working together in 2005, and we're good friends. And we talked about our other friends that are there. It's the people. It's the
Hmm.
people, right? There's a New Zealand Maori phrase about this. Hey tangata, hey tangata, hey tangata. The most important thing in the world is the people.
Hmm.
And there's don't call it socialist, call it humanist though. I'm fine with that label. People love to give people labels. I'm not a big believer in labels. I'm much more a believer that there's all these kind of spectrum and ranges, and people sit in different places on it. And all of those spectrums and ranges are simply structures that humans use to try and understand it. And that's where I think where people bring it back to AI. I think that's where people are at the moment, where it's an area, it's as complex to them as quantum physics, and they just can't put it in a box. And
Hmm.
the two boxes are good and bad. You know, good is, oh, it'll be fine or it won't happen, and bad is it's going to kind of Skynet me. And I just don't think black and white is the way of the world. I think we've got a variety of color.
Now, I think you're absolutely right, and it's wonderful to see that ancient wisdom from a culture that's been with us for thousands of years, like the Maoris, is
Mm,
just as applicable to this cutting edge technology that we're dealing with right now.
absolutely.
So, Tim, I always like to ask this of my guests. You obviously were very cutting edge back in 2016, 2017,
Mm.
but what's that one piece of advice that you would give to the listeners today about AI and what can they do?
I call it the blue hat. So put on a blue hat. You know the story about the two hats. So you've got an orange hat, which is all of your, and I say orange because I love orange and it's my company color. The orange hat is being a developer, making things work.
Mhm.
This is going to be great, super positive and optimistic. The blue hat is saying, this thing, it's here. We need to deal
Mhm.
with it. How might it affect me? You need a bit of both here, right? So you need to learn about it and you need to make a plan. And if you're sitting there saying, this isn't going to affect me, then you're wrong. Go and get someone who's prepared to challenge you. And if you haven't got people who are in your business or around you who are going to challenge you, you're probably in the wrong room. So I always push people on that.
That's fantastic. Well, Tim, thank you for a fascinating conversation today.
Absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much, Richard.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.